for that anymore.
So Steve Ballmer was talking about here yesterday, and of course he was talking about how they're way behind you in search and in advertising. We know they just spent $6 billion to try to buy some expertise on the advertising side in particular, and tried to buy DoubleClick before you did, and he got very close to my face and in a very loud voice said, "We're determined." What do you say? "We're determined, and we're patient, and we're going to make big strides here." But one of the things he said is that the presentation of search results, the user interface for presenting the results, has been relatively stagnant. Would you agree with that? Is there a need for, I mean, for all of your phenomenal success, is there a need to make some strides in the way that you present the results?
Well, this past week we announced something which we call universal search, which is the blending algorithmically of results from video and audio and books and so forth and so on, news, which is a big component of it, directly in the search results. So far the feedback is that people love it. We of course tested it before we rolled it out, and it looks like we'll roll it out pretty soon worldwide. So that's an example where a relatively simple presentation has been augmented. I don't think we're going to go very far from the single search box. One of the things to know is that we're seeing tremendous success with personalization of Google. It's called the iGoogle page, and many millions of people are now personalizing their search experience. From my perspective, this was a surprise, because I figured people like that very simple box. But in fact, if you think about it, people know what they care the most about, and so they personalize their page. And these new web gadgets, as they're called, allow you to have a highly personalized experience. So what's happening is you have sort of the corpus of Google available to these gadgets. The gadgets themselves can interact with each other, and then you can have a personalized platform experience. It's a very powerful model, and it's likely to be one of the major ways in which people consume information. The other thing to note about iGoogle is that personal experience also extends to non-PC, non-Mac platforms. Anything that can handle a reasonably sophisticated browser. So all the new generation of mobile phones and new devices should be able to run them. That's pretty exciting.
It is. It's similar to some other things that you can do on the web, NetVibes, even My Yahoo to some extent, and on the desktop with the dashboard on the Mac and the sidebar on Vista. But still, when you type in a search, even from an iGoogle page in that box, it looks a lot like it looked 3 years ago. Now, maybe that's good, maybe that's fine, but in the world you live in, 3 years is a really long time for something to still look pretty much the same.
But disagree a little bit, because although the look may be the same, the amount of content and the types of content are vastly larger. With all the new content that's available in Google, the index is infinitely larger. There's so many different services.
I'm talking about the UI and the presentation.
The other thing that we did is at the very top left-hand corner of most Google pages, you now get a menu of services, essentially online applications of one kind or another, so that you can not only have a personalized page, but you can also then go into the depth of the data services that are offered by Google, again, worldwide.
Why don't you have a better sense of the preview of the pages that you bring up? I know I'm being a little granular here, but some competitors, Ask.com is one, have a little icon, and if I mouse over it, I can see what that page would look like before I commit to clicking and going over there. Is that?
We have looked at that. It hasn't been it has not tested particularly strongly one way or the other, and there are some latency issues with such previewing.
So that's not something you're interested in?
Well, we're always experimenting. So if you look, for example, in Korea, we just announced a very different browsing interface, which actually has pop-ups as you browse along the fundamental homepage. So we're experimenting. The difference of the user interface stuff is culturally specific, country specific, language specific, and you'll see more of that.
Also here at this year's D, we had a demonstration of Mahalo, Jason Calacanis' new product, which is a kind of a Back to the Future thing. You probably know what it is, where he has human editors, and his contention is that for a certain percentage of particular kinds of searches, your algorithms aren't very satisfying to people. We showed a little video of people saying, "I can't figure this out," or "I'm not getting what I want." And there are areas like, I want a particular hotel in a particular city. There is this enormous search engine optimization industry, which is essentially gets up in the morning every day and tries to game your system, and it isn't always good for end users. And in some categories, I can tell you just as a user, I think he's right. I'm not saying his solution is the right solution, but I think he's right that there's an issue. It does frustrate me, at least, when I go to look for a hotel. Maybe it's just me, but the things that I want most are the website of that hotel and some sort of review that I can trust. But instead, it's just pages, it seems to me too often, of brokers, middlemen companies that claim to be able to get me a room for a certain price, but I don't even know which hotel I want to stay at. Is there a solution to this? Is Jason's solution the right solution, to go back to the Yahoo directory approach and put, at least for some searches, put some human editors in, or can you do it with changing your algorithms?
We believe we can do it with changing the algorithms. The problem with these human approaches is you can always pick a category, and a very talented human editor can always do a better job. The problem, of course, is it doesn't scale. It doesn't scale to 100 languages worldwide and the billions of pieces of information that people care about. There are new artificial intelligence techniques that can use both the personal information that you have, as well as all the other information and signals that we have, that can produce a pretty good approximation of what a human editor can do. The thing that you're referring to, we call index spam. People who are paying money to try to generate false results and or overwhelm the user.
Not paying money to you, but
they're paying money to other people. The classic example is called a link farm, where people take 5,000 computers and they cross-link each other. Well, we, of course, can detect link farms now, and our software is very good at that. But there are other attacks that people try, and because it's in their financial interest. I think one of the things that's interesting about the web is the web is now so important that there's a certain amount of misinformation that's commercial or manipulative in nature, or you call it disinformation, or some term where it's sort of boosted, if you will, by financial interests. And people have to learn that sometimes the marketing has been infused with resolve, and we try to detect that as much as we can. The particular issue with reviews is one that I, for example, notice all the time, and we have better approaches that are in development for that.
You do. Because I think it is an issue, whatever we think about whether Jason has a business or someone else has a business.